Now it's time for On Point, where we speak to experts to delve deeper into the biggest news stories in the spotlight right now. In September, the Chinese social media giant Weibo banned a BTS fan club from posting for 2 months, accusing it of raising funds illegally. The account, which had well over 1 million followers, was mainly to discuss BTS member Jimin. Now, dozens of other fan accounts for IU, Blackpink and EXO were also suspended for a number of weeks as well. Now, according to industry sources, these Weibo accounts and those operated by K-pop stars themselves were unable to upload any new posts since last year. But just last month, the bans were lifted, allowing them to talk to their Chinese fans yet again.
Some analysts say the initial bans could have been a hangover from the 2016 deployment of a U.S. anti-missile system THAAD in South Korea, which angered China and prompted it to impose a strict ban on imports of Korean cultural content. For more, we connect to Jenna Gibson, a doctoral candidate in political science at the University of Chicago. Good morning, Jenna.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, too. Now, what do you think of Weibo's recent lifting of restrictions content related to Korean culture? And could this be a sign of easing tensions between Seoul and Beijing?
Unfortunately, I wouldn't read too much into the lifting of this particular restriction. As you mentioned, the trend over the last few years has been very restrictive toward Korean celebrities and Korean pop culture content in multiple different ways. And I don't necessarily see evidence of these broader trends changing. So seeing a specific restriction put on and then lifted is not necessarily enough for me to say that tensions will be easing going forward.
Well, I suppose we all hope that this minor concession might lead to healthier relations going forward, but with the Chinese Communist Party, you never really know where you stand. However, do you think the entertainment ban really had a bad effect on the South Korean entertainment industry in terms of revenue and fan base? And do you think now that this has happened and going forward, Korean entertainment agencies will think twice about trying to re-explore what would otherwise be a very lucrative Chinese market?
Yeah, I think this is really important. We talk a lot about China's policies, but it is important to remember, as you are asking, that this goes both ways. Starting in 2016 with THAAD, the Korean entertainment industry saw all these doors shutting in one of its biggest markets, and that did have a huge impact. They had to really scramble and figure out what they were going to do. And honestly, a lot of entertainment companies really adapted. They found new markets, non-Chinese markets. They managed some of their Chinese stars differently, for example. And so because of that experience, I think the Korean entertainment industry is wary of jumping into the Chinese market too quickly, knowing that they could get burned again.
And also, Jenna, in September, China also told broadcasters to ban what it labeled, quote, sissy men that were, quote, too effeminate to appear on TV. This was considered part of President Xi Jinping's edict enforcing national rejuvenation. What did he mean by national rejuvenation, and why is China so threatened by external cultural influences?
Yeah, I think there are two big things going on here. There are the overall policies implemented in the last few months regarding celebrities, internet culture, all kinds of different areas. And then there's the role of the external cultural influences, including Korean pop culture. It's important to remember that a lot of these policies, including the ones you mentioned, including some of the bans on Weibo, were not necessarily aimed at Korean celebrities per se, but they're part of a larger push on the Chinese side to shape the public and digital discourse in a way that the Chinese government wants, right? So there's a lot of overlap, a lot of fan culture that is very popular in K-pop fandom, like donating large sums of money in the name of a favorite K-pop singer, as we talked about with the Jimin fan site. So that's one of the things that got these fan sites in trouble, but I don't know if it's a way to crack down on Korean cultural influence per se, so much as a larger policy trend within China generally.
Yeah, a lot of China experts are concerned with the way Chinese politics is going under the leadership of Xi Jinping really ruling with an iron fist there. But finally, South Korea and China have designated, ironically enough, 2021 to 2022 as cultural exchange year. Now, as we just reported, yesterday, officials from the two sides, they got together to talk about economic cooperation. They talked about this ban on Korean cultural content, as well as the urea solution shortage in South Korea. Urea is the substance used to kind of lessen the emissions on diesel vehicles. Do you think we can read too much into that meeting? Do you think anything fruitful might come out of it?
Well, it doesn't seem like anything particularly bad came out, which is always good. It seems like the talks went well enough. You know, they discussed these various issues. They discussed cultural exchange. I think the problem is that everything we've been talking about until now, this is not a new problem. And, you know, this is part of a much broader policy trend, as I was talking about before. So while it's possible that the two sides can find some small ways to promote cultural exchange, I'm not too optimistic about a complete return to pre-2016 levels of openness. And the final point I'll add is that we haven't even talked about COVID, right? It will be very hard to see concrete steps toward more cultural exchange when things like concerts, joint filming projects, TV appearances are restricted anyway for those COVID-related reasons. So I guess the bottom line is I'm not overly optimistic, but I would absolutely love to be proven wrong.
Well, Jenna, we appreciate your insights. It's going to be interesting to see how this will unfold. Thank you for joining us again.
Yes, thank you.